It away, I want to give you some background on Liz Kimball. She's a writer, speaker, coach, and creativity catalyst. She spent over 2 decades as an acclaimed dancer, actor, and director before writing and presenting on courage, creativity, women's empowerment, and nonlinear paths to greatness. She's the co-founder of a 2-year program in artist entrepreneurship at the New School, and she's spoken at TEDx, New York University, the NBA, the Guggenheim, and more. I'm very jealous about the NBA one, by the way. Just throwing that out there for reference. Liz has supported her clients and students to sell pilots, excuse me, book Broadway shows, make award-winning films, land recording contracts, write books, launch successful businesses, start movements, and most importantly, develop energizing and sustainable relationships with their creativity. Liz, you've made it closer to the NBA than I have ever will. So very excited to have you here again. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Take it away.
What an absolute delight to be here. Okay, y'all, we're going to dive right in. It is so good to be here with all of you. And I also just want to say hi to everybody on the replay. Like, we're all in this together. I'm going to start with an overview of today. We have a webinar in 3 acts. Act 1 is what if you're not the problem? We're going to go over 5 rules for creativity. This is like how I start anything. And then we're going to talk about creative block, and we're going to talk about why I actually think it's a good thing. Act 2 is called Through the Unusual Door, and we're going to dive into 5 keys to creative breakthroughs. And Act 3, Green Light, we are going to talk about wild moves, insights, and then if I do my job well, we will have some times for questions. I really want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions. So that will be my big intention for myself today. I want to start just with some introductions. So can you share in the chat, share your name for all of you who are here, share where you are in the world. And then could you just share something that is inspiring you right now? So we're all in it together right now, collectively. There's so much going on and we're all feeling it. So I'm just curious if there's something that's like bringing you some light, bringing you some aliveness, a TV show, something you're listening to, maybe just anything in your life. So I'd love to hear from you where you are in the world and one thing that's inspiring you right now. Something that's inspiring me is okay, I'm watching Heated Rivalry. Let me know if you're also watching this. I'm like organizing my life around watching this show. And I'm also reading a biography um of James Baldwin right now that I love. Okay, Brazil. Lou is from Brazil. My niece and nephews are inspiring me. Elizabeth, we share the same name. From St. Augustine, inspired by the sunshine. I love this. Amber is inspired by new ideas. Janelle in Oregon. Nature is inspiring you. Fiona in Evanston. I love Evanston. Do we all love Evanston? Okay, I feel like that's something many of us must share. Okay, these are fantastic. Keep sharing. Okay, here's the next thing. Say hi to somebody in the chat. And I really mean this, okay? And all of you on the replay were saying hi to you. If we were all in person together, I would make you go say hello to somebody that you don't know. So just like find somebody in the chat and say their name and like say hi. Um, just to kind of like break through the two-dimensional nature of a webinar and connect with each other because we're really kind of doing this together. People are doing this in the chat and it is literally giving me life. Okay. Nancy's in Manhattan, inspired by creative contemporary dances. Okay, Nancy, we need a sidebar about creative contemporary dances. And I'd love to know what you're watching. Okay, keep like literally find somebody's name in the chat and say hi to them. Okay, Max gave an intro, so I'm not even going to go into this. But this is me. I'm living and working in northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. I live and work on the traditional land, unceded land of the Lenape people. I'm a mom of 2 little kids. I am a creativity catalyst and a transformational coach and advisor. And I started my background is in the performing arts, and I've been dancing for multiple decades and performed before I started this part of my career. So my company is really focused on supporting visionary creators, founders, and artists to bring forth their boldest creative work and live unapologetic creative lives without sacrificing themselves in the process. And that last part is really key. And I'm really driven by this question of what if every woman on the planet felt fully expressed. And that is like, we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary this year. And that is what gets me up in the morning. And I'm pretty sure it's what's going to get me up for the next multiple decades. My clients work across industries. I'm so lucky to have like an incredible kind of a coaching practice that's really full of people from multiple disciplines. I really believe in cross-pollination. I think we're siloing so much these days. So every client that I work with and everybody who is kind of part of any of our communities is in some way devoted to disrupting the status quo and telling new stories to make a more, a more just and liberatory world. I really kind of, my life and work is devoted to exploring creativity as a catalyst for cultural and personal transformation. So, share in the chat too if you'd like. What are you up to right now? What are you creating this year? I just love to hear that. People are saying hi to each other, which is awesome. So keep doing that. And also, if you want to share anything about what you're creating, and kind of what brings you to today's webinar. Um, I have had the pleasure in my career of witnessing hundreds of creative births and thousands of creative breakthroughs. And that's really what we're here for today. I'm so excited because today is about making something happen. So here's our intention collectively. My first intention for us today is to help you discover one thing, one, not 100, that you might need from today. Like either something I say, something we talk about, something you intuit while you're here, something that comes to you while you're here, one thing you might need to have your most creative year yet. Because let's just like affirm that everybody here, everybody on the replay, we can affirm that this can be our most creative year yet. Like, why not? If there were ever a time to live your most wild, unapologetic creative life, it is now. The miracle, because I believe in miracles and I like to go big and kind of go for something like awesome, would be that something happens today that catalyzes your next creative breakthrough. This is really my job in your life, is to help you catalyze creativity in your life. And we'll talk about what a breakthrough is, and we'll talk about, everything today is about that, but that's really our intention. Okay. It could happen on the call. It could happen 24 hours later. It could happen sometime this season. I'd love for you to share in the chat, what's your intention for today? Why did you show up? People are sharing, okay, I'm in the process of writing the sequel. Okay, we've got several writers in the chat. Jeff is writing a sequel. Okay, someone's working on creating better time management. Oh, I have lots of thoughts about time management. We'll talk about that. Okay, great. Lou just joined out of curiosity. What a great reason to join. And Max is working on DJing. Awesome. Okay, keep sharing what your intention is. What made you show up today? It's really significant. There was some voice inside of you that got you to show up or got you to watch this replay. Okay, we're starting in Act 1. The idea here is, what if you're not the problem? Raise your hand. Just let me know. Have you ever felt like you have to get out of your own way, or sort of like felt as if you were kind of in the way of the thing that you really want? That's what we're going to dive into. We're going to start with 5 rules and practices for creating anything. I learned these in grad school. I was getting my MFA at UT Austin, which I love. An alma mater I love, but not as much as Northwestern. And I had been performing for over a decade at that point. I made my living as a performer, and I got my health insurance through the Actors Union. And my entire career, I felt totally creatively blocked and sort of not free. I was somehow able to do my job, but on the inside, I didn't know how to feel like my creativity was really something that got to be kind of freely expressed. And when I went to grad school, my life changed, and they really changed from these 5 rules. So they're super simple, not to be underestimated in their power. And I also say them at the start of anything because they're also the rules for us working together today. So we're co-creating and we're in a collaboration on this webinar experience. And let's see if, one of these maybe is something also you might need for your creative life right now. Number 1 is to show up. Okay, everybody did it. So high fives all around. By the way, research proves that high fives improve success. So we can all be high fiving more. So give everybody a high five because you're here. This changed my life. I thought the job of a creative, I thought my job as an artist and somebody living a creative life was to do excellent work all of the time. And that every time I showed up, I had to kind of do my most excellent perfect work. And the idea that my first job as a creator is actually just to show up, like, really helped me start to dismantle years of perfectionism that I had learned, especially through ballet. That was how I started. I was a ballet dancer. So showing up means we're making the brave choice to choose presence over perfection. We're choosing curiosity over fear. And we're also trusting that, like, we are not in control of what is happening. Okay. So you showed up, you did it. You did rule number one. Rule number two, turn off the noise. We're choosing space over overstimulation, and we're choosing attention over distraction. If you haven't already, and if it's possible for you in this moment, turn off your notifications, close down your email, shut the social media apps. I'm a mom. Like, I always have to have my phone nearby. So this is not about being perfect about this. Okay. Like, the last thing I'm ever going to do is tell you, like, perfectionist digital hygiene. But at the same time, one of our jobs right now, for like one of our most important jobs for our relationship with our creativity, is to own our attention. Are you with me on this? To take back our attention and take back our focus. The other thing we're doing when we're turning off the noise is we're turning off the inner critic. And this is, like, easy for me to say. And for me, it's been a lifetime of work to really change the tone of the voice that talks to me in my head while I create. But I say it now because sometimes we have to say it over and over and over again. Here's rule number 3. Tell the truth. When we choose telling the truth, we're choosing the imagination over the status quo. We're choosing full expression over fitting in, and we're choosing multiple truths over the binary, over kind of, I would say, the oppressive binary. So, rule number 4 is to forgive yourself. This is a big one. So often, when I begin working with somebody, we kind of come into a creative process already with feelings of not enoughness and behind. This is huge. Almost every creator I've ever worked with, including myself, feels like we're somehow behind, like we're somehow not where we're supposed to be. This was taught to us by the culture. We're going to get into that in today's webinar. But kind of forgive yourself for, like, anything, any sort of, like, oh, I should have, or I wish I had. Here is where we choose benevolence over pressure and radical love over shame. Are you ready for rule number 5? Rule number 5 is to be open to all possible outcomes. Okay, this also changed my life. I didn't know that the creative process meant that we must be open to absolutely anything happening. I really was kind of, like, always sort of thinking that I was in charge of controlling the result. So here we're choosing the possibility of the unknown over the false promise of certainty. We're choosing trust over control. Okay, here's, like, a really simple way I have learned to train myself to remember this cue of being open to all possible outcomes. And we're all going to do this together. And please, like, no one's watching you. Just, like, dive right in wherever you are. Okay, this is called getting into a wow state. I actually learned this in a clown class, of all things. And there's 2 things that we're going to do. And one is, just in this moment, I want you to open your eyes wider than you're opening them. Okay. Is everyone doing this? I can't see you, but tell me in the chat if you're opening your eyes wider. Okay. See what I'm doing here? I know I'm small. So just, like, open your eyes wider. Here's the thing. It is very hard to be in a state of judgment, if our eyes are open wide. Can you feel that? Like, it just sort of immediately puts us into that place where anything could happen. Okay, here's number 2. I want you to grip your hands, make fists right now. Make fists. And this is kind of like how we walk through life, understandably so, given the overstimulation, given all the responsibilities that we have, given all of the pressure. So here we go. We've got these fists. And now I want you to, like, simply open your palms. Just open your palms. Okay, now give me a little feedback in the chat. How does that feel? So now the trick is, can you open your eyes wide, get in the wow state, and release the grip? So 2 things, eyes open and release the grip. And just notice how you feel. You don't have to do that for the whole webinar. But when we want to make a breakthrough happen, we have to start doing things differently, immediately start doing things differently. So maybe even just throughout this conversation, just be aware of your hands. Be aware of when your hands start to go into fists. And what happens when you just create that open palm. The palm is just a metaphor for the openness. That's what the eyes are doing too. And see what happens. Notice if you have any, if anything changes. Amber says it does feel different. Great. And that's all we're looking for, Amber. Okay, fantastic. You did it. Those are the 5 rules. Okay. So that's just what I like start everything with. And I just offer those to you in case also, usually one of the rules is like something you might need for what you're working on right now. And that's what we're about to talk to. But tell me in the chat, show up, turn off the noise, tell the truth, forgive yourself, be open to all possible outcomes. Is one of those rules useful for something you're like actively working on in your own creative life and creative process right now, or really any area of your life? So share that in the chat. And then I have one more question for you. I want you to go through the 5 keys that I'm going to share today with a focus. So it's really, we can talk ideas all day long. And like, believe me, I would talk ideas with you all day long. But I am like very interested in making something happen for you, making movement and making shifts, positive shifts that you would like to see. And that it will involve flow, and flow follows focus. So the first thing we're going to do is actually create a focus just for today's webinar that you can take with you. So I want you to just don't overthink this. But if we could make a creative breakthrough happen for you, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be like the creative breakthrough happens today. Maybe it could. But maybe this season, you can think of it in any kind of container of time, today, this season, this year. If we could make a creative breakthrough happen for you, what would you love it to be? And I really just want you to go with like what comes first. It can kind of be in any area of your life. Your creativity touches every single area of your life and every single relationship in your life. But think about like if we could, don't think about how it's going to happen and don't think about kind of what's in the way. We're going to get to that. I'm going to go to the chat for a second. Okay. I just want to go back to the 5 rules because people said some great things. So Fiona says showing up is really speaking to me. It means showing up even when I don't want to, right? So kind of just I would call showing up as like a devotional practice. That's great. Being open to other potential outcomes, trust over control. Okay, great, great, great. Trust over control is a big one in the chat. So share, if we could make a creative breakthrough happen for you, what would it be? And if you want to share in the chat, writing it down will actually start to create momentum immediately. So you might want to write it down, if you have something that you're writing with today, but also you might want to just write it in the chat. Okay, people are sharing turning off the noise. Family interruptions kill my concentration, but I don't want to cut important people out of my life. Oh, Jeff, you and me both. We're doing this imperfectly, and we're kind of holding the balance between caring for the people we love and also protecting our creative space. And I have 2 small children, and I really feel that with you. Okay, so Elizabeth says, finding a vehicle to reach more people with a message of healing. Great. So the breakthrough is kind of identifying the vehicle, and so that you can then reach more people. Okay, this is fantastic. Keep sharing your breakthroughs in the chat. I want to share one more thing about me. This is really kind of, it's just kind of like how I come to this work with even more humility than I ever have. So 4 years ago, it was right after the birth of my daughter. This is my daughter Milagro, and this is my son Mateo. And right after Milagro was born, I got unbelievably creatively blocked. And the way that showed up for me was that I've really been coaching and writing for a decade, and writing, on the internet, but also writing curriculum and leading workshops and giving talks. And I all of a sudden couldn't write. Like I stopped publishing. I stopped doing podcasts. And I started to get like an intense performance anxiety too. And I've been a performer my whole life. So these were all kind of like very strange things that were happening to me. And they were also extremely embarrassing because my job is to help people clear creative block. And I was the creativity coach with like profound creative block. Of course, like you receive these experiences so that you can kind of unearth more wisdom. But what it meant is that everything I'm going to talk about today, everything we're exploring today, I had to go back and retest and relearn on myself. So all of this has come out of like thousands at this point. I'm such a, so blessed in my life to work with so many amazing creative people and to be witness to their breakthroughs. But like I had to go back and test everything on myself. And it was sort of like going into the cave before I could come out of the cave, and it was a really challenging time. I was struggling with, postpartum experiences around anxiety and depression that ultimately led to a ton of healing with great support. But it also sort of, I had to go back from the beginning and relearn how to trust my creativity. I got totally out of trust, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, I feel even more just kind of like in awe of getting to do this work with you today, because I've really been on like the bathroom floor, like crying on the bathroom floor, feeling like I do not know how I'm going to get out of this. And these keys helped me out. They're a way out. I'm going to go to the chat for a second. So, okay, these are great. Finish my short story. Okay, so Joanna's really wanting to work on finishing and completion. Joanna has way too many works in progress languishing on my computer. Is that resonant with anybody else? So often, we can have sort of multiple unfinished projects and we feel kind of the energetic drain of them not being completed. That's really, you are so not alone in that, Joanna. Um, Kermit says, find a clean, clear, easy way to transform and filter the noise into priorities for my time. Okay, great. Maria says, figure out what writing to share related to my new business. Right. So there's like I see that too, Maria, is like multiple different ways you could go and to clarify what writing to share that would really align with the business. Okay, that would be a breakthrough. Okay, so are you willing to have this breakthrough? Like, are you all willing to like let this breakthrough happen? Because every breakthrough begins with that kind of open to all possible outcomes and also willingness. Okay. So now let's see if there's anything we can offer you to support this. Let's just, create some definitions first. I find that sometimes a definition can just help us locate ourselves in what's going on and what might be blocked and what kind of a breakthrough might feel like. So here's how I define a creative block. Something preventing flow, something preventing creative flow and resulting in a temporary lapse in connection between you and your creativity. Blocks come and they grow at the onset of expansion and new frontiers of creative life. So if you are somebody who is choosing to live a creative life, which I can't imagine, like everybody here must be, you would not want to listen to me talk if you weren't aligned with that. You will experience blocks temporarily throughout your entire life if it is also, if you are on a path of expansion, which anybody who is awake is. So the blocks come right at the moment while you're expanding. And this is scientific. So if you study the flow cycle, and we're not going to get into that today, but Herb Benson, who was a cardiologist from Harvard, pioneered this idea of a flow cycle. And the phase before flow is the struggle phase. So I really equate the struggle phase with block, but what it means is just that it is very natural and it actually is a sign that flow and breakthroughs are on the way if you feel any kind of block. We're going to get to that in a moment, like what you might specifically be experiencing. The breakthrough. So here's how I define a creative breakthrough. When connection between you and your creativity is restored. Like that's it. That is all we're trying to do is to create that connection again. And the result of you being back in connection with your creativity is flow. And ideally a feeling that you can really fully express in whatever way. So just notice how those definitions land on you and how they might sort of change the way you've been thinking about whatever feels like it's in your way and whatever feels like kind of is coming up for you. But here's the thing. external and internal forces are designed to block you when you're trying to grow and expand. Are you with me on this? So, and have you noticed this? Here's how it shows up externally. The culture that we live in does not want you to be fully creatively expressed because anybody's full creative expression is a threat to the status quo. And the culture's job is to preserve the status quo. And the culture actually profits when you are kind of out of connection with your creativity because then you buy more products, you scroll, you kind of follow whatever, however the status quo is being kind of enforced by the dominant culture, by people in power. So, and this is particularly true for anyone who's who identifies as somebody who's underrepresented or maybe historically marginalized. The culture absolutely does not want you to be in your creative power. Okay, so those are the external blocks. Then we have the internal blocks. Your primitive brain also doesn't want you to be fully expressed and also doesn't want you to have a breakthrough. Like both the culture and your brain today are like not in support of this webinar because that part of your brain, the kind of earliest part of your brain, and you know, this is talked about a lot, so I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but it's wired to keep you from risk taking, encountering the unknown, and standing out in any way. So you're wired to fit in. That part of your brain is wired. So it's just good to know that any blocks that we feel, which are not us, we're going to get to that, they are by design. Okay, I'm just going to go to the chat for a second. Jeff's asking about a book. I haven't read The Act of Creation, Jeff, but I'll put it on my list. And thinking of the High School Musical song "Stick to the Status Quo." Oh my God, I don't know that song, but you know, that's kind of a perfect way of saying what both the culture and your primitive brain really want you to do. Here's a belief I want you to consider. Whatever feels like a block for you right now is a sign that your creativity is trying to flow, move, and expand. Because the block comes when we're temporarily disconnected from our creativity. And the block kind of is like a message almost from your creativity that's like, we're trying to move here. Like something is trying to kind of break through. And the block isn't yours. It belongs to the culture. We talked about this, that profits off of your being creatively disconnected and is really threatened. Like it actually is kind of threatened by anything that's trying to move beyond the way things are. The block isn't yours, but we do have to deal with it, which is why you're here. Blocks we're usually taught by the culture that the block is your fault. Have you experienced this? You just need to be more productive. You need to be less lazy. You need to be more, you need to stop procrastinating. And instead, I want you to consider that the block is like, let's say your creativity is like a river. Okay. So you and your creativity together are like a river that flows, and the river is always flowing. It's there. It doesn't ever disappear. But what stuff gets in the river, like boulders get in the river, sticks get in the river, and things like, any kind of blocks that you're experiencing, whether it's self-doubt, whether it's cultural, you know, kind of feeling like you know, you have to do something to fit in instead of really saying the thing you want to say. That's just stuff that starts to block the river from flowing. But the block is not the river. You are the river. You are not the block. So let's talk about it for a second. I want you to go back to your breakthrough that you articulated. What is in the way? What's blocking you right now? And there's already fantastic sharing in the chat. So just like, you know, your truth will always empower somebody else. But share in the chat, what do you feel like is blocking you? And, you know, articulate it, kind of don't overthink this. So often, you know, the block, so often we're really familiar with what the block is, but it can sometimes be sort of hard to voice out loud. Okay. So Fiona says being too much. Lou says procrastination. Nala says me. Joanna says poor time management and lack of focus. Michelle says me. I'm the problem. It's me. Okay. I love Taylor Swift, Michelle. Um, and let's see. I'm curious to see how these feel in like 10 minutes because we're gonna address that, Michelle. Fear of negative judgment, Elizabeth. Too many ideas to narrow it down, says Jeff. Fantastic. Okay, can we just celebrate the clarity here? So you know what your breakthrough is, and you know what's in the way. Okay, you know kind of something that's blocking you, and these blocks we can get them out of the river. Okay, y'all. Too many ideas to narrow it down. Um, so I'm just curious how these kind of compare. I put this on Instagram once and this really resonated with people. But this is just really based on my experience. This is what I see over and over in my coaching practice is before the breakthrough happens, we will see things like increases in self-doubt, increases in perfectionism, feeling scattered with lots of ideas and an inability to lose focus, lack of motivation. Sometimes it just feels like everything is breaking down. And in sort of fear, insecurity, imposter syndrome can kick up to even higher levels than they've been at. Have you experienced this? And this will even be true for a creative breakthrough inside of an organization or a business. So we're really talking about you right now, but many of you might also, you might lead a business or you might lead a family, and we can get kind of creatively blocked inside of those ecosystems as well. And these will start to be trends in kind of a larger ecosystem as well. So, you know, I have seen these as like kind of what happens before we start to experience the movement. This is why your block is actually a good sign. Here's the model of the creative cycle that I work with, and I just want to talk about what happens when we get unblocked and sort of the way it's naturally meant to be. So, um, I work with 4 phases of the creative cycle. It's just the way that I have found really helps me and clients understand where we are in the creative process. And it mirrors the seasons. It doesn't kind of exactly, and this is, it's not like every cycle, every phase is 3 months, but the becoming phase is like the winter period. And this is really where, and if you like the nature metaphors help here, so you can think about like the becoming phase is the fertile void. This is before we start to see anything. Seeds are under the ground germinating, ideas are percolating. It's like, the trees like I'm in the northern hemisphere. I know people are all over the world right now, but I'm in winter right now. And the trees all have like buds. They're all there, but you can't see them. So this is the becoming phase. This is when you're ideating, when you're choosing between your different ideas, when you're trying to sort of figure out what's next, where this thing is kind of going, what it is even. It can feel like messy and chaotic, and it can also feel kind of fun because there are multiple options. Emergence pairs with spring. So this is when we start to bring something into form. The bud bursts through the soil and bud, but like the kind of plant bursts through the soil, and we start to feel something kind of growing and coming into form. And the way this happens in your creative work is like something gets structure. It starts to kind of stand on its own 2 feet. You let go of certain possibilities, you choose one, and this is really generating when you're really like making a thing and building it brick by brick or bird by bird, as Anne Lamott says. If you know, she's got beautiful thoughts on writing if you don't know her work. Expansion is summer. So this is when it's both when you start to really refine your work, but also to blossom it outward. And you start to advocate for it in the world. You start to get ready to share it, let people know it's happening. We can talk about this as visibility, which is a very popular word right now. But this is when whatever you've been building starts to go out, away from your just tiny little creative incubator studio and out into the world. And then release is really when you give it out. So when you release the gift, this is when you launch the thing, you publish the book, you release the product into the world. But this can be as simple as like posting on social media if you're somebody who creates content. And also the renewal and restoration and rest that happens after. And this really kind of mirrors fall and the harvest and the culmination, the completion. So we are meant to flow through all 4 phases of this cycle if you remember when you were a kid, or if you have kids in your life and you watch them, they go through all phases of this cycle naturally. Yes or no, right? Have you seen this? My kids are like obsessed. My husband is works on Broadway and works on the show MJ the Musical. And my son is like obsessed with Michael Jackson and with performing dances. And he comes up with the ideas for the dance. He makes it up. He gets people to come see it. He tells everybody to come see it, and he does the dance. He sells tickets. He does the dance, and then he kind of moves on to something else, and then he does a dance again. But he never, he doesn't have the blocks that we have. He doesn't struggle with like, will somebody want to see it? Should I tell people about it? He doesn't even really struggle with like which idea I should go with. He just kind of knows which idea we should go with. So I say that all because this is our natural state. We're meant to be in this creative process. And this is why the blocks are not us. The blocks are cultural conditioning and the kind of the water we're swimming in our adult lives. So there's a part of you that already knows how to do this. And actually, there's a part of you that already knows how to be free of this block. Flow is what moves us through all of the cycles like that. If we're experiencing flow, we're moving healthily through the process. And courage is what helps us also move through the process. So we're going to talk more about courage as we go. So take a minute. This can sometimes help folks is with whatever the breakthrough you're talking about is. What stage do you feel like you're in? So somebody said too many ideas to narrow it down. So that's definitely like the becoming phase. But if somebody's also like trying to think about what am I going to share, you might be in the expansion phase. So sometimes we have a breakthrough simply from just naming and locating the phase of the creative cycle that we're in. So often we can be creatively blocked just because we're trying to be in a cycle that we're not, a phase that we're not actually in. So share for a minute, and just consider for a minute where you might be within the context of this particular breakthrough. You got other things going on. We're often in multiple different phases at different times if we have multiple projects. And this also really applies to life. So, you have creative projects, you have your work life, but then you also just have your life's path. And I often find that people kind of go through this cycle inside of their lives too. Or, sometimes if you're even just kind of like if you're in a personal process, sometimes this can really relate to folks. Okay, several people are in emergence. Okay, great. And what does it feel like? Notice like just to name the phase that you're in. What does it feel like to just name it? Kermit says becoming. Okay, great work, folks. Keep naming them in the chat. I'm going to move us into Act 2. So Act 2, through the unusual door. I'm checking our time right now. Okay. Okay, perfect. So through the unusual door, I'm going to go through the 5 keys. And I want you to pay attention. You don't need all 5 keys, but perhaps one of them might support you and the breakthrough that you're currently working with. Okay, Fiona says it feels exciting to name it. Fantastic. Okay. So how do we get unblocked? So conventional door, we talked about this, is basically productivity culture. Have more discipline. Stop being lazy. Follow somebody else's 10-step plan. Why don't we do another time management webinar or get another productivity hack? Maybe like a very complicated morning routine. Maybe you've tried some of those things. That's not my particular area because I have found that those things actually don't free your creativity. They kind of sort of keep you always in this kind of hustle culture matrix. So let's talk about the unusual door. So to me, the unusual door, and this reference comes from Beaufort Delaney, who was a painter in the 20th century. He was a great friend of James Baldwin. And he really talked about the unusual door as really kind of this beckoning of a creative life, that we're when our creativity is healthy, we're actually able to walk through the unusual door. And the unusual door for me, it has everything to do about restoring your relationship with your creativity. So consider for a moment that your job is not to have more discipline about your breakthrough. And consider for a moment that the only thing you need to do is to perhaps offer your creativity a bit more connection, a bit more devotion, restore trust and safety. Safety is so key because we can't create unless we feel safe. I didn't learn this until I was late 30s. I thought our best creative work came when you felt really unsafe. That's what I was taught in my training. But actually, there's great research to prove you can't feel curious if you don't feel safe, and curiosity is the beginning of most creative processes. So we're restoring trust, safety, benevolence. Each key will help us restore the relationship. And y'all, we're moving into a world of AI. I'm not telling us that that's not happening, but we are going to keep working on what is the uniquely human thing we can offer in this next chapter. And AI cannot do any of these 5 keys. Okay. It's only human. It's only you. So we can think about any little action you take from today's webinar is like putting a little pom-pom. This is my creativity jar. I put a pom-pom in it every time I write. Every time I write is just a way of showing up for creativity, trusting my relationship with whatever, however you would define this force in your life. Some people call it creativity. Some people call it source. Whatever you call it, the names don't matter. But our job is just to build back the trust with it. So this is the trust jar I use. Let me know if you have anything that you use to just kind of like show up for your creativity and physicalize it. In this moment, I want you to share how you feel about your relationship with your creativity. So just share 3 to 5 words right now, or maybe just 1 word in the chat. How does it feel? And what do you want it to be? How does it feel? And what do you want? What do you want the relationship to feel like? What I have seen over and over is when we focus on this one relationship, all of the other relationships in our lives can also benefit. So this means we start to make more money. Our relationship with our kids gets better. Partners, like our marriage feels, our marriage feels the positive effects because we're starting to feel more creatively expressed. I've watched lots of people see changes in their bodies as a result of working on their creativity. So it's just a nice bonus. Fiona says, the truth right now in the chat is fantastic. It feels far away. I want my creativity to be my friend. That's an incredible, like another kind of just moment of clarity that we're going to celebrate. We're going to go through these keys and see how these might support your relationship with your creativity. Elizabeth says loving, but a bit dysfunctional. Okay, great. Let's see if we can kind of clear up some of that dysfunction today. So key number one is to reclaim your spark. She was made of exclamation points. It's one of my favorite quotes from a Chiara Alegria Hudes play. If you don't know her, she also wrote In the Heights. This key is for you if you're feeling burned out. It's also if you're feeling kind of plateaued. Many folks in mid or late career start to feel this feeling of like, okay, I've done a lot of stuff. Now what? What's going to actually excite me? This is helpful if you're struggling to trust your ideas. Also procrastination. Also kind of prioritizing others' perception of you over your inner voice. Here's how I define spark. This is your unique combination of desire, what do you want, enthusiasm, what do you love, and curiosity, what lights you up. We want to go back to your spark and just make some little moves to start to give it some love and attention. We don't even need to make big moves. A little bit goes a long way when it comes to reclaiming your spark. This looks like unearthing who you were before the world told you who to be. So just to start to strip away some of the societal and conditioning expectations and go back to like who you are at your essence. We really start to use enthusiasm, desire, and curiosity as a compass. Another thing we're doing here is curating your inputs. And we're really looking at your life and seeing what is coming in. This is what are you scrolling? What emails are you getting? What books are you reading? What TV are you watching? What is coming in that is not supporting your spark, that you actually aren't curious, excited, and you actually like? And start to kind of clear stuff out so that you can really bring more inspiration in. Some of the biggest piece of the spark work that I do with clients is reclaiming what you were taught is too much about you as your creative superpower. So somebody wrote that about kind of like the too muchness, and this is very, very culturally conditioned into us. Most of us between the ages of 4 and 6, sometimes 3, it can happen as early as 3. We receive a message that we're too something. And, we often receive a lot of these, but for many of us, it's like one of them really sticks. This is just a list of things clients have told me, and you might consider right now what you were told was too much about you. And my offering to you today is perhaps that thing you were told is too much about you is actually some of your greatest creative source and the kind of DNA for some of your greatest creative contribution. And sometimes the breakthrough happens simply when we reclaim something. So for example, I have a client, she's a founder, she has a business, and she's one of the things she's doing is really building her personal brand, and that requires a lot of thought leadership on social media. She was told she was too loud, like just explicitly in her childhood, and that was getting in the way of her adult thought leadership. So we worked on reclaiming this too loudness as her superpower, and it solved all of these things like procrastination and laziness that she was kind of diagnosing and trying to solve through productivity mechanisms. And what that really does is it just keeps the cycle going. Whereas we went to the source and we kind of interrupted this cycle, and it's really profound. So consider for a moment. You can share in the chat if you want. What were you told? You were too much, and this can come from culture. It can come from families of origin. Sometimes it just comes from our inner critic. One of mine was like too enthusiastic, too earnest. Those were big ones for me. Okay, so we've talked about this, things that dim our spark, the algorithm. We're reclaiming the spark from the algorithm, from social media pressure, from achievement and grind culture, and from cultural conditioning. Okay, I'm giving each key has an experiment. If you'd like to try this, go for it. This is a assignment I give a lot of clients. So sometime this week, spend 15 minutes of non-results oriented time. This means you're not making yourself write something or produce something or kind of extract something, but simply 15 minutes with something that you love, something you're curious about, or something that lights you up. And see what happens. I do this every morning for 15 minutes. I write without the pressure of result. And it's like now for me, like brushing my teeth, it's like just a part of my practice. But I was going to say at the top of the webinar, I have some resources for all of you. I have like a little resource care package. So I'm going to tell you how to get that at the end of the webinar. But if you want more on this, like if this piques your interest, this is a huge tool that has like really, really worked for people because it's hard to say no to 15 minutes. Here's key number 2. Make space for the wow. Anne Bogart, who's a prolific director, says that you cannot create results. You can only create conditions in which something might happen. Again, I thought most of my creative life, most of my professional artistic life, I thought my job was to create a result. I didn't understand that my job was to create the condition for something to happen. And this really shifted the way I thought about my job as a creator. So here's where this key can really help. This is for you if you're feeling overstimulated, excessive pressure, procrastination. Also, if you're just like disappointed and you're like, I would like more downloads, please. Like one of my clients calls it zaps. Like she just wants more zaps from creativity. She wants more like flashes of goodness. If this is something that you would like, the making space key is for you. Okay. Making space looks like acknowledging that this is what I was saying before. It's just our job to make space for the genius and the magic, not to be the genius, not to produce the genius, not that you have to do it all on your own, and kind of rest in this idea that you are co-creating everything with whatever, however you think about creativity. And this is just, you have to kind of make a leap of faith. This is not what most of us were taught. It also means replacing excessive pressure. So raise your hand if you feel like too much pressure in your creative process. If you feel like pressure is one of the things that might be blocking your breakthrough. What we want to start doing is shifting that and bringing instead heat, because creativity loves heat. Heat is like my dare to you to spend 15 minutes this week. Heat is like a creative incubator. Heat is like a book deadline or an appointment on your calendar with your creativity, but not like an appointment with my creativity on my calendar to be brilliant and to, write 10 chapters of my book and to have it be like publisher ready. So we're starting to take pressure out of the process. Many of us were taught that pressure creates results. And perhaps it does in a short-term way, but I have found it does not create sustainable a kind of sustainable creative practice. This also looks like owning our focus and attention and releasing drains and clutter. So Kermit asks, will the slide deck be available? I can totally send you the slides. I'll tell you how to get them. Absolutely. We're not going to go deeply into these 7 types of creative space, but this is just to kind of get your mind going on how we can start making some more creative space for you. I work with 7 different types because I think we often think of space as just physical, but we're really looking to create more inner space, physical space, calendar space, energetic space, collaboration space, permission space, and emotional space. And all of these, and this is not for you to, you don't have to work on all of these, but one of these might be something right now that will help with your breakthrough. And just take a moment to consider that. If, there's a type of space that's really calling to you for so long for me, especially right after having kids, it was like inner space and physical space. I was just like, get me to a room of my own and turn off all the sound, turn off the people clamoring on my body and screaming for me. And I started to create more of that. And I was like, okay, now we can work on collaboration space. I feel like I can kind of open up into that. Okay, here's the experiment if you'd like to try it for key number 2. Clear one thing to make space for your breakthrough. Literally one thing. You don't have to do anything. You could clear clutter in your office. You could clean out your bag. You could delete some emails. You could just like unfollow a few people. You could just put a 15-minute appointment on your calendar. You could kind of take the other experiment and combine it with this one. I want you to start thinking about this simple practice of making space that can actually start to have profound results in the creative process. Okay, we're going to go move through these next 3 keys and know that you will get the slides afterwards. Key number 3 is take the lid off your voice. There's only one thing more frightening than speaking your truth, and that is not speaking. That's Audre Lorde, who's like a real North Star in so much of my own practice, if you don't know her work. I have found that so often standing between someone and their creative breakthrough is something that they either want to say, express, kind of like a point of view that they need to own, maybe something they need to write or speak or share that feels scary to do. Okay. And this is so normal, but it can often kind of lay dormant and we don't even know that it's going on. So this will often feel like this is for you if you feel sometimes it's just the pain of withholding, sometimes it's imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Perfectionism is a big one here. And sometimes this is just like a feeling of underexpression. Let me know if you know what this feeling is like. This won't apply to everyone, but if you're underexpressed, you know it. And I felt this so profoundly in the first 4 years of motherhood. And like I was overstimulated and underexpressed. And it was because I had things to say and share and speak out loud that I wasn't. And for me, that was like a very big, a time issue also. Sometimes the thing between you and your breakthrough is one conversation. Sometimes it's deciding that you're going to make whatever you're sharing more important than potentially offending somebody, or just like what will somebody in your family or kind of close circles think. So usually in the creative process, we're over focusing on what the people right around us are thinking about us and under focusing on who the work is actually for, on your audience, on, whoever's meant to receive it. The voice experiment is just to go, like, say something, write something, one sentence, share one thing. And that you've just been afraid of sharing or saying, or schedule one conversation before your inner critic talks you out of it and see what happens. Key number 4 is about imagination and imagining the world. Toni Morrison says, dream a little before you think. So this can be helpful if you're feeling stuck in like lacking in possibility, but also lacking in excitement. If maybe you feel like you've been doubting your vision, maybe you feel constrained by rules or the status quo, the way things have been done, you're stuck in logic. This is also, let me be straight up with you. If you feel steeped in responsibility and caregiving, which so many of us are, if you're caring for elders or you're, a parent yourself, or caregiving in any other way, sometimes we just feel really disconnected from our imagination because we're so steeped in reality. This is also just if you're really ready for a fresh shift or a fresh take. Here's what this can look like. Number 1, this is just going back to like play and dream again. We're so steeped in strategy and planning in the world that we live in, and with the way AI is moving people forward. AI can't imagine, by the way. Like, it cannot imagine and it cannot dream. This is something that only you as a human can do. And this is a muscle that I feel it's like an endangered muscle right now. And we need to kind of preserve it and work it like we work when we lift weights. Like we have to kind of work the imagination muscle, helping us to disrupt patterns, refusing the status quo, trying wild shit, like just trying new stuff in your life, and really considering that you're a world builder in the short story that you're writing, in the healing practice you're launching. What you're doing there is you're building a world in whatever way that you're doing it. And that to kind of really fully imagine the world is a huge part of whatever that creative process is. Here's the experiment without censoring or editing. Use this prompt. Wouldn't it be amazing if? So take your breakthrough and use this prompt. Wouldn't it be amazing if? And just write 5 or 10 statements. Don't stop. So don't edit, don't censor. Try not to stop writing. This will just get you going. You're not thinking about how it's happening. You're opening up the possibility space beyond what you've been thinking is possible for you. And try that prompt. My clients really love this prompt. And, the bonus of this is it change all of these keys. They change your energetic state. So it's not necessarily things you have to take action on, but it just starts to get you seeing and feeling and intuiting from new places. And it opens up new kind of pathways in your brain and in your creative process. All right, ready for key number 5? Y'all are doing great. Oh, wait, I forgot to say this. This is my favorite question when you're imagining. What if it works? So, sometimes just our biggest breakthrough block is like, well, it's not going to work and I can't guarantee that it's going to work. But try this on. What if it worked? What if it does work? What if your DJ practice works? What if this big idea that you're exploring in your writing practice is actually kind of going to take you somewhere? Here's the last key, and this is one of my favorites. Key number 5 is to embrace the both and. Okay, we all know this quote from Whitman, I imagine. Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. So the both and key has everything to do with reclaiming 2 things, reclaiming some kind of paradox that you were sort of taught doesn't get to exist together. We're given all kinds of messages, and this is very unique to each of us, but we're very aligned together in that most of us, to make space for our breakthrough, we sometimes have to kind of reclaim two seemingly contradictory things, or things that kind of exist beyond a binary. This can be like you're a lawyer, but you're also writing poetry, and the culture doesn't like let you be those 2 things together. And sometimes the breakthrough happens when we just let you be a poet and a lawyer, or an artist and an activist, or ambitious and tender and easeful and graceful. And we kind of bring together these opposing parts of ourselves. This can also just be if you're like tired of code switching and tired of feeling like you can't bring all of yourself to whatever it is that you're doing. The both and key will really look like, accepting that paradox and thinking, I just want you to think about this, whatever your intersections are, and they're unique to each of us, but whatever those kind of opposing, identities are, they are the stories you're here to tell. So it's not that you have to figure out how to not be this part of yourself. For so long as a coach, I thought I like had to hide this artistic part of myself. But it's actually like that's what makes me the coach I am. And to really kind of take back the identity that you might have been told you have to hide. This is sometimes like all we need for the breakthrough to happen. All right, my friends, the both and experiment is just to identify a both and that you need to reclaim and just write it down. Just literally write down. I'm a grandmother and I'm a prolific artist. Whatever it is that, whatever it is you'd like to reclaim, please write that down. All right, we're wrapping up now. And I didn't leave a ton of space for questions, and I'm sorry about that, y'all. But if you'd like to stay and ask questions, I'm totally great to stay. We explored reclaim your spark, make space for the wow, take the lid off your voice, imagine the world, embrace the both and. The thing about breakthroughs is that they always require courage. So often we'll almost miss the breakthrough that wants to happen for us because it requires us feeling uncomfortable and exercising courage. So my invitation to you today is to just, as we affirmed at the top of the call, like to green light the breakthrough. We're not waiting for somebody else's permission to have this breakthrough. We're saying that you are in, you get to be sovereign and you get to be the permission for this to move for you. You don't even know how it's going to move. But one way we get out of the waiting room on something, we kind of get out of that stuck or blocked place is just by trying something new, making a wild move. So, my invitation to you post this webinar is to do one thing, maybe one of the experiments I said, maybe something else that came to you, one wild move in service of your breakthrough. And I'd love to hear if you have an idea about what that one thing might be, or just one thing you're taking away from today's conversation. And feel free to share that in the chat, and then I'll leave space for some questions. So feel free to share one thing you're taking away, or one thing, one wild move you might like to try, one experiment you might like to do in service of your breakthrough. Okay, here's the best way to do this. Also, Max, I might be able to send you things that you can send everybody, but here's my email right here. It's liz@lizkimball.com. Send me an email with the subject line unblocked, and I will send you back the slides and several other delicious resources for you. So, and Max, I think, can also send this to you as well. And I would love to stay connected to you. So, my favorite thing about a webinar is when you email me afterward, or you DM me on Instagram, or you find me on LinkedIn and you tell me something that happened. Like, it doesn't have to be something huge, but just that you tried something or that you felt a shift. Because we can't do this alone. And I'd love to kind of see how this tracks for you. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. Oh, I'm on Substack too. So find me on any of those places, send me an email, and I'd love to take a few questions.
Liz, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for staying engaged in the chat. We're always so appreciative of that. Yeah, we've got about 7 minutes here, at least on my end, Liz. So please feel free to, again, to use the Q&A box or the chat. I think I saw one a little bit higher up in the chat, so I'm going to try to read this one. And again, to clarify, everyone, we will be sending all of these slides to everybody. And Liz, if you have any other resources, we can include those as well in our post-event email. We'll
Great.
send everyone the recording as well. I'm looking for the question I saw. A couple people just saying thank you all for joining. No worries if you have to leave. Um, so here's an interesting one. This isn't a question, but it's one that I was thinking of as I was following the chat. Someone wrote that one of the things that they're working on with their creative breakthrough is time management and lack of focus. And I feel like typically we consider those sort of, like traditional work things, right? Like, oh, I didn't do this project efficiently. I didn't do this quickly enough. And I think it's interesting to think about it with creativity because it's obviously different. You're not just trying to crank out as many things as you can.
Right.
So
Right.
how would you define time management when it comes to the creative process?
I would define it as completely unnecessary, but and I don't mean to be facetious about that, but it's not that we don't we need to have a relationship with time as a creators. We use time, we use constraints. Constraints are helpful. Constraints make things happen. Deadline makes something happen. It actually helps you. It's a container for something to happen. But this idea that we're managing time within a creative process makes us feel, I have found in the productivity culture, this is all has to do with industrialized time. And kind of the industrial revolution's effect on how we create is that we feel as if our job is to be efficient, and creativity is not an efficient process. It doesn't mean though that sometimes things don't happen faster than you expected, and you can't. This is not like slow creativity, guys. I promise you. But what I'm saying is, we're so wired to be efficient and productive that we don't give ourselves that space for the wow, the space for something to happen that will sometimes feel like I'm not being efficient. And that's a good thing. So I would actually use containers, use a deadline, give yourself an hour to write. Like, those are helpful. They create heat, but stop trying to manage how well you're using your time within that container. That's where we start to feel the excessive pressure.
Great answer. Um, I see we've got about 20 more folks here. So just again, want to throw it out to everybody. We do have a couple minutes if you have any more questions. I want to say, first of all, again, thank you to Liz as folks think of questions. This was great. Off screen, for the first time in my 2.5, almost 3 years at the NAA, I had terrible tech problems, and Liz was just so patient with me. So I really appreciate that. And I think this is just such a cool talk. This is something that clearly, based off of the chat, our alums have really gotten a lot out of. So I'm not seeing any others. I think this is a good time to wrap, and I'll again remind everybody. Oh, okay, we do have actually one more question. This is a good one from Kermit. Could Liz say more about her use of the concept of containers?
Yeah. So a container is literally just something in which something could happen. And I know that sounds really big. So let's like kind of break it down what a container could look like. A container can look like 15 minutes. I put 15 minutes on my calendar every day to create without the pressure of results. A container could look like joining a creativity incubator. A container could look like, you kind of creating a project plan or sort of like a series of deadlines for a particular project that you're working on. It just gives you a space that does have constraints within which you can create. I hope that's helpful. They can really be sort of wide ranging. It literally is just if you don't have a container, you don't have enough heat usually to make. So instead of like, I'm just going to write my book, but I'm going to create my outline of the book this winter. That's a container. You're giving yourself a time and you're giving yourself kind of a clear focus.
Well, Liz and everyone, thank you so much again. We will be sending you all of these resources. If you have any questions, of course, our office is always happy to help. And Liz will be providing some other resources. So, Liz, guests, thank you so much, everyone. Go Cats.
Thank you all. Go Cats.
Take care.